This channel is part of the History Hits network.
Hello, welcome to A Cook Back in Time. I'm in the Strand in London, and today we're looking at the Victorian era and the life and recipes of simply one of the greatest chefs of the last 2 centuries. His influence on the culinary world was inestimable, and many of his ideas on cooking are still used today. His name was Auguste Escoffier, and he made his reputation here in 1890 at the newly opened Savoy Hotel in London. On today's programme, we'll be finding out exactly how Escoffier earned his reputation as the Emperor of Chefs and the Chef of Emperors. And his present-day successor, Anton Edelman, the head chef at the Savoy, will be giving us a step-by-step guide to rustling up a delicious Escoffier meal. The hotel opened its doors for the first time in 1889, 12 years before the death of Queen Victoria. Built right in the centre of busy Victorian London, this historic site on the Strand had once housed the Palace of Savoy, but was now about to become one of the most famous hotels in the world. The project had been the brainchild of the Gilbert and Sullivan impresario Richard D'Oyly Carte. It took more than 5 years and vast expense to complete, but when it did open on the 6th of August 1889, it incorporated unheard-of features, including full electric lighting and what for the time was a startling number of baths, 67 in all. D'Oyly Carte had set the standard for all grand hotels to follow, style coupled with innovation. He also ensured a continuing success by luring celebrated hotelier César Ritz from Paris to be its manager. With Ritz came Auguste Escoffier. Escoffier was born in the Provence region of France in October 1846, son of a blacksmith. His father took him to Nice, where he was apprenticed at a restaurant owned by his uncle, thus beginning an illustrious career which he enjoyed for the next 62 years. He died in 1935 at the age of 89. Sarah, you're director of the Academy of Culinary Arts, which is Britain's leading association of our most respected chefs. Tell me, how important in culinary history is Escoffier?
Escoffier is immensely important, even today. One of the most important aspects of Escoffier was he was such a good organiser. He was the one that really perfected the party system. The party system is where the kitchen is divided up into different sections. So there would be somebody devoted to fish, someone to meat, someone to sauces, and so on. And in fact, there are 16 departments in a kitchen, whereas before everybody would do a bit of this and a bit of that.
Didn't he introduce frog's legs into this country?
A slightly debatable point, but one thing about Escoffier was he's a great marketeer. And I should think it was probably Escoffier who promoted frog's legs, which before that had not been very kindly received in this country, along with things like foie gras and truffles, which were also sort of signature ingredients of Escoffier.
How did a menu in a grand hotel differ from an ordinary Victorian meal?
Another great asset of Escoffier was he was a little bit of a pioneer, and he understood a lot about nutrition. He also understood the need to vary food. So whereas a Victorian menu would be something like soup, meat and 2 veg and a pud, in a hotel like here he was able to give lots of different courses, but keeping the quantities quite small, so people were able to enjoy a huge number of different foods. And that of course would probably be when he was able to introduce frog's legs and foie gras.
Escoffier was the head chef here until 1898. There have, of course, been many chefs since then, but for the last 18 years it's been Anton Edelman and his brigade of over 75 chefs who are responsible for all the meals served in the River Restaurant, as well as the 8 private dining rooms, 3 banqueting rooms, as well as floor service. The River Restaurant alone serves an average of 130 lunches and 150 dinners per day. So Anton has to run a very tight ship. But despite being responsible for one of the busiest and most creative kitchens in London, Anton, according to a colleague, He's never known to raise his voice, nor appear anything other than calm, both in and out of the kitchen, and always has a smile for you. Hope he's got a smile for me now. Anton, it's lovely to meet you.
Jeanne, what a pleasure.
It's really lovely. Now tell me, was it always your ambition to be the maitre chef at the Savoy?
It was always a dream, but as so often, you know, dreams become true.
What influence has Escoffier had on your life, your career?
Difficult to say, huh? Because I think Escoffier had an enormous influence on all chefs. And even the young chefs nowadays, you know, the ones who are 20 and 22, they may not realize it, but a lot of what is happening in the kitchen nowadays still goes back to Escoffier.
Will you cook an Escoffier meal for us?
That'll be a pleasure.
What are you going to cook?
Quenelle of lobster
Oh,
in a lobster sauce.
Oh.
Then we carry on with Tournedos Rossini.
yes.
And then we finish off with Soufflé Rothschild.
Anton, you've read my mind. You've cooked all my favourite food, or are going to.
You have to eat it all, of course.
Well, I hope so. Right,
Lovely.
I'll let
So-
you get on with it then.
So what we have got here, John, is some lobster mousse. We put it into the RoboCoupe, as Escoffier would have done it. Nothing new. We added some egg white and then we added cream. And I'm just going to finish off with a little bit more cream. It's sitting on ice here, so it's nice and cool.
So that's just lobster and cream and...
Correct. Lobster, cream and egg. Egg white,
Right.
really. I've got some hot water there. And that's very well seasoned. And we make 2 nice quenelles. And this is going to be a starter, so we don't want too much. And of course, it is very, very rich. But it's also very, very light on your stomach. So you see that goes in there. And we're looking for the perfect shape, of course.
That's something that we amateur cooks never get, is that perfect shape.
It depends on the quality of your mousse, really. There we are. And now we pop it back on the stove and we just simmer it very slowly and very light. Here we got our sauce. We made a lovely lobster sauce, John, with the shells of the lobster. We add now a little bit of brandy. Quite a little bit of brandy, because I think in Escoffier's days, it didn't cost a lot.
Oh, now that's something I can't do. I have to use a match to light my
See,
brandy.
And then we flame it off to get rid of the acid in the brandy.
Yes.
And then just let it burn out. And we boil it up once more, very quickly. And then we'll have to pass it through this fine chinois here, so it goes in there. So I take another spoon and I really push this through as hard as possible, get all the flavor out of it, you see. And now here we've got this little sauce, you see, and it's nice and creamy. Would you like to taste it?
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you.
Careful about your lovely green soup that you don't spoil it. A little bit more seasoning.
Perhaps a little pepper.
Pepper?
But I'm very much a peppery person.
So am I. I use
I
cayenne.
don't take salt.
I use cayenne pepper, you see, because
Yeah.
cayenne pepper brings out a lovely flavor in
Wonderful.
things. Right.
Nom, nom,
Now
nom.
for the garnish,
Yes.
we have some lobster which I cooked before. So I take a few medallions. And of course, in Escoffier's days, Scottish lobster would have been very cheap, wouldn't it?
Well, yes, I mean, oysters was the food of the poor, wasn't it?
That's right. Just imagine.
Now just think what we have to pay
Yes.
for them.
All we need to do is put it on a plate now. And now the lobster, look at that. Beautiful. And you have to be very careful that, of course, that you don't overcook your lobster, otherwise it gets
Yes.
very hard, which is not very nice.
You're just draining them there.
That's just draining them now, yes. And then we pop a little bit of spinach on there. And you see, Escoffier did all the right things. He understood food ever so well. He understood color coordination. Now look at these little quenelles, you see? They're so light, they're so
Oh, wonderful.
beautiful, isn't it? And then we have a little bit of the sauce there. Just a little bit. Again, because it is rich, it is good. You don't need a lot of good things, I would think.
But then don't you find with food that has a terrific taste, you don't need a lot of it?
Absolutely correct, you are. Now, you wouldn't pass me over that little puff pastry seahorse.
Aren't they lovely?
See? And that we put that on the top. And here we've got Escoffier's lobster quenelle al Amoricaine.
It's lovely and it looks almost too good to eat. Join us after the break when Anton will be cooking up more Escoffier delights and I'll be meeting the outrageous Brian Sewell.
I can think of nothing better. I brought my doggy bag.
Anton Anton Edelman will be cooking some more Escoffier recipes for us a little later. But first, the Savoy has always been frequented by the rich, the famous, politicians, actors, artists, and today I discovered art critic and columnist Brian Sewell. Brian, if you could go back 100 years, would you rather have an Escoffier meal at the Savoy or go to the theatre and watch Sarah Bernhardt?
That old bat. You do realise that she was a lesbian and had only one leg. No, of course I'd much rather have the luxury of an Escoffier meal. Much more fun. All that palaver downstairs, you know, flurries of waiters, elegant women, chatter, chatter, chatter. No, much more fun.
How does cultural life in Victorian times compare with today?
Oh, I think it's probably just as pretentious as today's is. You know, you have the new Tate and all that sort of business. The whole of that society revolving round it is really a kind of repeat image of what was happening in Victorian society, where you did things because they were done, not because you necessarily wanted to do them. You did things because you could afford to do them and you wished to be seen affording it, which is exactly like the friends of the new Tate. Enormously rich people playing around with things they don't understand.
In Victorian times, the maitre chefs like Escoffier were courted by royalty and celebrities. Do you think chefs of today have lost that status?
Well, chefs are still courted, but they're such vulgar twits, most of them, aren't they? And, you know, they're the subject of gossip columns. They don't get on with the job. I don't want to be snobbish, but I am. And in a sense, I do not want people in a bloody apron turning up and saying, have you enjoyed your meal? I hate that question almost more than any other.
Especially when it comes from the person who's cooked it.
Yes, I mean, what are you to say?
But there are some wonderful chefs these days. Wonderful, wonderful people.
Oh, yes, there's one downstairs.
Brian, it's been fun talking with you. Could I ask for a bit more of your time? Would you like to sample some Escoffier recipes cooked by Anton Edelman?
Yes, of course I shall.
Thank you.
So now, we're going to cook this beautiful Tournedos Rossini. See what we have got here? We've got the best Scottish beef money can buy.
We have actually, I do agree there.
It looks lovely, doesn't it?
Yep.
You could eat that raw, couldn't you?
No, I couldn't.
You could bite into it.
No, I couldn't.
And with it, we have now the finest goose liver available. See, a whole nice loaf.
Is that pâté de foie gras?
It's no pâté yet. It's the raw component.
Anton, don't tell me that they are truffles.
Of course they are.
I've never seen a whole truffle
Have
before.
a look at this here, lovely. Perigueux, comes from Perigueux. 30 grams,
Yeah.
beautiful. This one is probably worth 80 pounds. But it looks beautiful, doesn't it?
Well, it does look good enough to eat, but not
Worth
as
every penny.
80 pounds. Wow.
Lovely, isn't it? So now we season these little...
Escoffier paid absolutely no heed to economy, did he?
He was a very lucky man. Did he know how to spell the word profit? No. I believe not. So we season our meat and also our goose liver. Goose liver needs to be seasoned quite aggressively because to bring out the flavor, and you need to use a lot of black pepper. Escoffier does that. But Escoffier was also the king of croutons. Mm-hmm. Almost to every piece of meat, he would have a sort of fried bread with it. Now you've got to cook your fried bread.
Yes.
Whilst I cook the meat. And have a little bit of butter in your pan, of course, clarified.
Mind you, today you could do your fried bread in olive oil. That's supposed to be very good for you.
Well, it's very healthy then, isn't it?
Yep.
So how do you like your steak cooked then, Chan?
A point. Medium, please.
Medium, yes. Now look at that. Chan, you prepared the perfect crouton.
Thank you, sir.
This is beautiful, golden brown.
Good. May I
Looks
come and work
appetizing.
for you?
You can come anywhere. And you don't need to work here either.
Oh.
So we pop them in here, because they are ready now. There we are. Right, now we flick this one over here. There we are, and then we pop in our goose liver. Now we want to cook the goose liver with the meat a little bit because the aroma and the flavor of the goose liver wants to go into the meat, and it's a beautiful flavor. That's the fat coming off the goose liver. Chan, believe me, it's worth every calorie. So now our goose liver is ready now, and our meat is ready. Here you go.
Anton, I gather Escoffier never learnt to speak English.
No, that's absolutely right. He never even made an effort.
Why?
Because he felt that everybody should speak French, because he thought that the culinary language was French.
Didn't he also say that if he learnt to speak English, he'd cook like we did?
That's probably also true, yes. Although mess. So, right, now our vegetables are here and our little sauce is there. Would you like to taste the sauce, Shan? This is a reduction of Madeira and port
Yes.
with a little bit of veal cheese in there.
Oh,
Rich,
yeah, very rich, but
strong,
wonderful.
full of flavor. Right,
Yes.
now we turn across here. All we have to do now is dish it up. Now, I thought I'm going to take the crusty one because I think crust is best, isn't it?
Yes.
So we pop that on there. Then the goose liver goes on top. Look at that. Beautiful, isn't it? Now, into the sauce, we put some chopped truffles.
There's about 20 pounds worth of truffles going in
Absolutely
there,
right.
Anton.
And on the top of the tornado, we just cut a nice slice of truffles for the top there. There we are. So we shake
Wow.
our sauce a little bit. And the sauce now goes right over it. Look creamy, shiny, and full of flavor.
I've noticed your sauce for the first course was also shiny. How do you get that shine?
By reduction, you
Oh.
reduce the stock, and then it takes on a lovely shine. And the vegetables, I haven't seasoned the vegetables yet, have I? So we need to season the vegetables. A little bit of salt, as you don't like any salt. Plenty of pepper, as you like plenty of
I
pepper.
love pepper, yes.
There we are. Little toss. And then all we do is arrange the vegetables around it any way you like. And I think at this time of year, I think the vegetables are lovely. And I think Escoffier, of course, would only have used, like us nowadays, fresh vegetables. Seasonal vegetables are in season. And this is the Tournedos Rossini.
It looks
Don't you think?
wonderful.
It's smashing, isn't it?
Oh, yes. So what are you putting in there, Anton?
That is what Escoffier called a gourmand, which is butter
oh,
and
yes.
flour.
Yeah.
And of course, you speak very good French, don't you?
Well,
So-
I understand it a
Oh.
bit. Have to say, though, one thing I've never had success with is a soufflé. Never.
Never.
I've tried so many different recipes. I leave it to the experts.
I think you should try my recipe.
Well, I will. I will. I will.
I've got a...
And if it doesn't work, will you come and cook it for me?
Absolutely. Will you pour that in for me?
Yes.
So this is now the
Do
egg
you
you're
dribble
going
it in
Yes,
like you
please.
do
Ab-
olive oil?
That's right.
Oh, does that skin matter?
No, not one bit.
Right.
Because it's very, very hot in there, and the egg.
Yes, I know. It's virtually cooked, isn't it?
And then we whip it till it comes together. You see, this is now a very, very rich mix. And that's how Escoffier did it.
Right.
Now we're going to make the egg white. Obviously, the egg white is the most important thing of all. Escoffier would have had a copper bowl
Yeah.
and a large balloon whisk.
Do you know, I was going to say, I thought that's what chefs had to do. You weren't
Right.
supposed to cheat.
But you see, he was a slave driver.
Oh.
Now we've got these little lovely machines.
And it does as well.
It does as well.
Really?
So it gets a lot of this gets a lot of air into it, which is what's
Yeah.
necessary to lift the souffle out of it. It works wonders. I love it. Now look at that, Chan. Beautiful, isn't it?
It is.
There we are.
Makes me think of the French il flottant.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Now you see, I always think the test is if you can hold it up. And now you've got the perfect egg white here, or meringue. So this is the angelica and the cherries and the orange zest, which we're going to put into the mix now. That goes in.
That's what, mixed peel?
That's mixed peel, yes. So we stir it in. You see what a lovely color this is?
Yeah.
Nice, isn't it? And then we add the egg white. The first lot of egg white we add quite quickly. That is to loosen the whole mix. You know, that's not. We just want to make it workable. We want to make it elastic. And then we're gonna add the second lot. And now we have to lift it in carefully. Now we made a lot more egg white than we need for this here, but I always do that with soufflés. Because soufflés are a little bit like ladies. You never know how much egg white they really take. You see, and ladies sometimes take a lot of persuading, don't they? And it's exactly the same with soufflés. You've got to put a lot of love into soufflé. You've got to persuade it that it is going to be this sort of high soufflé. Right, now we're going to line the dish. So we butter it. And to this now we add some sugar. And if that was a savory souffle, would use now flour instead of sugar, of
Really?
course. Yeah. There we are. Now we fill these little fellas here. Look at that, and you see the fruit sitting in there. And then another one.
Now they're going in the oven for how long?
They go now for 10 to 12 minutes.
Anton, I can't thank you enough. You've interrupted a very busy day, bless you. I'm just going up while they're cooking to see if the guests have arrived.
Lovely.
Thank you very, very
Not
much.
at all. See you later.
Lobster quenelle américaine.
It's very tonal, isn't it?
Very
There's
comforting.
kind of soft, pinkish, yellowish things all there.
Really lovely. Fantastic combination of flavours.
Brian, do you think it's a shame that we don't partake of dishes like this more often these days?
Oh, I think we just got very lazy. We prefer to watch television and eat rubbish. Watch rubbish, eat rubbish.
This one is Tournedos Rossini. Is it good?
Well, yes, except that I suspect it's got foie gras on top.
Yes, it has.
There it is.
As a matter of principle, I would never eat.
Well, I don't
The
either,
goose
Brian.
liver, but it's got truffle.
Yes.
But
So,
I'm surprised at the number of people who are really quite green, friends of mine, who are very much against any form of forced artificial farming and come away thinking it's not a problem. It's absolutely not a problem. The geese love it. They love it. And they say, okay, well, wouldn't you rather like to spend your life being force-fed? And I think,
Short
maybe,
life and a
maybe.
merry one. Yes?
no, that's
absolutely.
not on. It really isn't on. But it is delicious. One can understand why it is done.
This is Soufflé Rothschild with a red wine ice cream, and I gather you must dunk the ice cream right into the middle of the soufflé.
Splash.
Oh, voila. I love this combination of hot and cold. And it's really fantastic.
The red wine ice cream is absolutely delicious and most unusual. Thank you both very much indeed for joining us. So there you are. Next time you see pêche melba on a menu, think of Auguste Escoffier. In the history of cookery, there's no one with such a long and distinguished career, 62 years. And though he moved with the world's richest people, he actually died a poor man. But then Escoffier was an apostle, and to an apostle his riches aren't money, but his disciples, and history records of those there was no shortage. See you soon on another Cook Back in Time.